Welcome back to In the Biz. My name is Kevin Hoover. I am out of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. This podcast we're stepping out of real estate. We're not going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about general business, more importantly, generation gaps. Big topic of discussion these days as far as millennials, Gen X, and baby boomers. Those are the three I'm really concerned with the most in this talk. So let's talk about an interesting statistic that I read. That 80% of millennials consider themselves leaders. That for me, that was very alarming. I don't know that stat compared to the amount of Gen X that considered themselves leaders at the same age. But here's why that's alarming to me. One, I think there's a big difference in being or considering yourself a leader and displaying leadership. Leadership is action-oriented, meaning you do the things that a leader would do, and you actually you show an example to either your subordinates or to the people around you, your family, your community. You show example as to what you believe a strong leader would be. Now, taking a survey and saying I'm a leader, that does not make you a leader. That gives you an opinion. So here's the problem I have with the statistic of 80% of millennials considering themselves a leader. It really depends on what action we're measuring. We millennials have, and I am first of all, I am pro-millennial. I am an advocate for millennials. I have a lot of people that I work with and around that are millennials that do a fantastic job. They are strong business people for the most part, from what I understand, but they also the reason they get such a bad rap is they have come up in a world that is just so foreign to, say, Gen X and baby boomers. That we don't have we just don't know what to do with them. It's kind of like, I equate everything to real estate. It's kind of like a house that there are no comps for. There's nothing to compare it to, so we don't know how much it should be valued at. And that's kind of how I see millennials. We just don't have anything to compare them to. But what I am finding, and millennials, you're welcome for that, because I am defending you. On the flip side, I'm going to hold you accountable, because I think with 80% of the millennials calling themselves leader, I think that's just a big load of BS. Not everybody can be a leader, so I think the definition of what a leader is has been diluted so far that we think that sitting behind a computer and updating your social media is being a leader. And while it may send a good message, there's a difference in sending a good message and being a good leader, in my opinion, which I believe to be a correct opinion. Otherwise, I would keep it to myself. So when we get into corporate America, and baby boomers, I'm going to start with you, and we're going to kind of work our way through siphon our way through it. And just set the record straight, I'm 43 years old, so I'm considered Gen X, the slacker generation, and that's fine by me. I went to college during the grunge years, or I started college during the grunge years. I actually graduated college during the boy band era. So those years were a huge variance, not only in music but in culture. I use music because that indicates the culture of the youth most of the time. So that's kind of where I sit in the mix, but I'm also a proponent of big business and business on the whole, and growing business and making America a place where business gets done. So let's start with baby boomers. Baby boomers, old school way of thinking, but here's the problem. A lot of them are aging out really at this point, and they're hitting retirement or worse circumstances. Hopefully not, but so it's becoming less and less of an issue as we go. And as the population of baby boomers dwindle, which, this was a bigger problem 10 years ago when there were more baby boomers in the corporate environment. As the population of baby boomers dwindle, it's actually going to bode very well for the younger generations, because we're all going to be dealing with the same stuff. So, but they saw Generation X, my generation, come through as a slacker generation, meaning we didn't want to do anything. Now they see millennials as an even more exaggerated version of that. They see millennials as people who really don't want to do anything. And they have the tools to get away with it. So baby boomers have that strong opinion. For the most part, I'm generalizing here. I understand that, and not every baby boomer has that opinion. But we're painting the struggle. What's the struggle in corporate America? The struggle is baby boomers can't understand the journey of a millennial, and millennials can't understand the journey of a baby boomer. And that's natural, because they haven't experienced the growth on such a different scale. So that's baby boomers. Gen X really, and here's why Gen X is so important, and not just because I'm in this demographic. Gen X is the bridge between the old school baby boomers and the millennials. When I started my career, there was no email. When I started college, there was no email. I got my first email account at college, and I never used it because I was like, "What the heck is this thing? I don't even know what it does. Just tell me what you want me to do." So even then, it took a while for that to catch on. So Gen X kind of acts as the go-between of I can understand the old school way and I can understand the new way of doing things, and that kind of puts them in a position of back and forth. Now, what happens is as the baby boomers age out of being a working age, or even their life expectancy ages out, then the Gen X becomes, they don't have to be the bridge anymore. They can just be the overseeing the millennials and the new way of doing things. So that's really what I'm loving about our business landscape these days, is that as and even some millennials are taking leadership roles, but as Gen X takes more of a leadership role than a baby boomer, it's becoming easier for the millennials to do the things that they're just grew up doing. Social media, texting, tweets, all the stuff that baby boomers kind of scoff at, it becomes easier for that to be part of the business culture. So that's how I see baby boomers and Gen X and their role in it. One, baby boomers are dwindling out. They're fading out. They're not going to be in leadership roles. 25 years from now, they're not going to be there. It's going to be Gen X taking over that job, and Gen X having operated as the bridge between baby boomers and millennials. It'll be much easier for the growing millennials at that point as they get older and there's a new generation coming on to do things. Now, I'm also going to say that as Gen X ages, they're going to talk a lot of crap about the next generation because that's just what we do. Not Gen X, but everybody. You're going to talk crap about the next generation because that's how that's how it is. So, millennials, sit down. Let's talk about this. So what is the beauty of a millennial? The beauty of a millennial is they have an overwhelming amount of information at their fingertips. And that can be used for good or bad. You decide. They also have a lot of tools that make doing a little bit of work or doing a lot of work in a short amount of time very easy, or easier, I should say. When we talk in sales, how do you reach your clients? Well, back in my dad's day, it was the phone or the car. Those were the two ways. In fact, that's how Zig Ziglar came up with Automobile University, because all the salespeople were driving around for hours and hours every day. So that's how he sold so many motivational and sales training tapes, is because he knew they were in the car all the time. So that, compared to now, where the millennials can just get on their computer for a few hours and have access to millions and millions of people all over the world, it's just a different landscape, that's all. So millennials, you shouldn't care if anyone understands you or not. It doesn't matter if anyone understands you. What you should care about is developing the skills that make you valuable in the workplace. All right, and here's the things. I read an article from Inc. magazine. I forget the author's name. I should probably find that, but I'm not going to because I honestly don't care. But the article said, here are 3 ways to keep employees before they quit. That's paraphrasing. That was the gist. And I started thinking, oh, that's interesting. Let me read this. And the 3 ways that this author in Inc. magazine came up with was trust, listen, and support their goals. So according to that article, the 3 ways to keep good employees is to develop a universal bond of trust, to listen to your employees, and to support their individual goals. And millennials, here's where I'm going to come down on you. If that is your goal, you're not going to have a very successful career. And if as a company that is what you try to provide, you're not going to have a very successful hiring turnover ratios. So here's what I say to that. One, millennials, if you really want, and young business owners, if you really want to create a successful business, all of those things are important, but we're going to call those emotional paychecks. The emotional paychecks come after you get some basic things down, right? So the first thing you need to learn how to do is how to do your job better, right? Because that's really why you're there. You're not hired, and that's my biggest problem with the article was I was like, are they talking about a company or are they talking about a marriage? Because they're saying that we need to give our employees things that a marriage should give us. I expect my wife to listen to me, to trust me, and to support my goals. I don't expect my boss to do that because that's ridiculous, right? So the first thing you need to do, millennials or Gen X or anybody really, but especially millennials, the first thing you need to do is you need to learn how to do your job better. Okay, and by that I mean that adds value. And when you add value, you will increase the trust. That's just how it works. Bosses, employers, companies, they're not going to trust you if you do a lousy job because they've hired you to do that job. So first things first, figure out a way to do your job better. Second thing, stop expecting a raise without increased responsibility. I'm going to say that again. Stop expecting a pay raise without increased responsibility. Now, people come out of college these days, they want the big bucks, they want the fame, they want the notoriety. What they don't want is a lot of the work and the mountain to climb that it takes to get there. That's, again, generalization. But what I want to get across is we're expecting just by putting in time to get a raise and to keep just putting in time. When you learn how to do your job better and you put in value, it opens you up into learning new skills, which then opens you up into getting more money to apply those new skills. So the more money you get or the more money you earn, the more responsibility you just are going to have. And if you want more money for no more responsibility, go wait tables and figure out how to be really good at it. Because the responsibility of a waiter, and I was a waiter for years, great business, the responsibility of a waiter never changes. So make sure that you understand that if you're going for a raise, then you are also going for more responsibility, right? So first things first, learn how to do your job better. Second thing, don't ask for a raise unless you want the responsibility. Last, and probably the most important, be on time. Be on time. That's it. Don't get caught up. There's a million excuses. My phone the alarm didn't go off. I lost my phone, blah, 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 blah. Just so many excuses. If you're in a professional world and you have a meeting at 9 o'clock, be there before 9 o'clock. Don't roll in at 9:10. Don't phone it in. If you want to really create value for yourself in the workplace, don't phone it in. Be where you're going to be, when you're expected to be there, or when you say you're going to be there. And I'll tie into that. Always do what you say you're going to do. If you say, I'll have the quote to you by 5 p.m. tomorrow, you better have that quote to whoever you're sending it to by 5 p.m. tomorrow. So I think really replacing the things that the company gives you with things that you can give the company, what you do is, first and foremost, if you do that first, you're going to get the 3 things the author of this really ridiculous article was talking about, because that's just part of it. When you add value to a company, they're going to trust you more. They're going to listen to you more, right? And they're going to support your goals more because they believe you're supporting the company's goals. So all of the things that you're expecting out of your job are things that just come by you doing better at your job or in your job or whatever you want to call it. So generation gaps in the workplace, they definitely exist. The first takeaway is baby boomers are on the way out. We know that, and that's not because they're terrible. It's just because they're getting older and they're retiring, or even worse, they're expiring. So that's the first thing. Gen X, as this age group comes into sort of higher management, executive level management, CEO levels, I think the millennials are going to have a much easier time in getting it across. I think Gen X is then going to be able to shift its focus from being the bridge between baby boomers and millennials to just fostering the growth of millennials in the next generation. So I think that's going to be a great thing. Now I think Gen X also needs to hone the skills of doing that, because you can't be the messenger and the boss. You have to be either the boss or the messenger in this case. So shifting from being the messenger to being actual boss is going to be key. And millennials, I think really, if you can take away this idea that you're entitled to listening and trust and things like that in your workplace, I think if you can get that off your plate and realize how stupid that sounds, and you can go into a mindset of, I'm going to do my job better, I'm going to expect more responsibility when I want more money, or if I'm going to get more money, and I think it's really going to just drive home the fact that you're going to be happier in your workplace because you understand how businesses operate better. So that's my take on the generation gaps. Thank you for listening. In the Biz podcast, of course, this is going to be on our YouTube channel as well. Please subscribe to that. We've got all kinds of nuggets over there. If you have any questions, reach out to me through SoundCloud or through YouTube. I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter as well. This is Kevin Hoover in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, in the Biz. See you guys soon.